Okay, today we are in section 8.4, the slope of a line. Go ahead and label your notes. Slope of a line. Alright, so here's what you need to know about slope. When you're finding the slope, the formula is rise over run. This is really, really important that you know that the rise means the change in your y value, and the run means your change in your x values between 2 points. Okay? And another important thing to know is that you read all of your graphs from left to right. So the direction that you read them is important. If you read them backwards, you might think that the slope is actually the opposite sign. Alright, so let's see what this looks like. You see on each one of these 4 pictures you have kind of a man walking up the line, and that just helps you see if he's walking upwards, like in the top left, well, that's a positive slope because from left to right, the line is going up. On the top right picture, that's a negative slope because, again, when I read the line from left to right, then the line is now going down, so that's what we call a negative slope. A zero slope is a horizontal line. What's important is that you understand horizontal lines have a slope of 0, but vertical lines have an undefined slope. If the line is vertical, the slope is undefined. And this goes back to earlier in the chapter when we learned the vertical line test to determine if it's a function. Again, it just comes back to if it's a vertical line, it's not a function. Well, if it's a vertical line, the slope is undefined. So you need to know that. Positive, negative slope, 0 is a horizontal line, and a vertical line is undefined. Alright, so in example 1, if you're in your textbooks on page 404, you'd see a picture of a wakeboarder, and he's going up one of those wakeboard ramps that you see. You can jump off them and do different tricks. So what they're trying to figure out is what is the slope of the wakeboard ramp. Alright, and here's the information it gives me. It has a rise of 6 feet and a run of 10 feet. Find the slope. Well, we know that slope is rise over run. That's something that you need to memorize. Rise over run is slope. So the rise, it clearly tells me, is 6, and the run is 10. And then I just need to make sure that I reduce that fraction. And 3/5 would be my slope. Alright, so now I want you to go ahead and do the same thing. So we'll pause the recording for a minute and go ahead and do the same thing on the second one. Alright, again, I want you writing rise over run. Just to kind of make that habit. Alright, and then here the rise is 12 feet and the run is 20 feet. So 12 over 20 reduces to 3/5. Alright, and that would be the slope of the second one. So even though they were different dimensions when we reduced the fractions, they actually ended up having the exact same slope. Alright, they were just, it looks like the second one was just a little taller and a little longer. Alright, so that's how we would find slope if we were just told this is the rise and this is the run. In example 2, we're finding the slope if it's on a graph. So if you have a question where all it shows you is a graph and it says to find slope, you can count the number of units between the 2 points. So the 2 points, the first one and the second one. Hopefully you can see that with the yellow. So the first point is always the point farthest to the left because remember, you read a line from left to right. So this is point 1, and this is 0.2. All right, so from left to right, how many units did I go up? Well, 1, 2, I went up 3 units to get to the same height of the second point, and I went over 1, 2, 3 units. So I would say, again, slope is rise over run. Just get in the habit of writing that. My rise was 3, my run was 3, so my slope is 1 over 1, or just 1. All right, but because you need a rise and a run, I really don't mind if you leave your answer in a fraction, and that just helps you know, yes, this is my rise and my run value. Okay, now the other thing is this slope positive or negative? What do you think? All right, and because from left to right it's increasing, it is a positive slope. All right, well, let's look at the next one. The same thing is going to happen here where I need to count my rise over run. So slope, and you're going to hear me say this over and over again, but slope is rise over run. So now, here's the only difference. Between left to right, now between the 2 points, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, when the slope is negative, it's the rise that's negative. The run is never negative. I'm always going forward or moving to the right. But the rise is what's negative. So you think rise, oh, well, you know, rise means to go up. Well, in this case, from point A to point B, you're going down. So that's going to be negative. And now your run is 1, 2, 3. So you would go -4 over 3. And this is your final answer. Do not change it to a mixed number because we need it with those rise and run values untouched. All right, so if your slope is going down, you need to put a negative sign in there. All right, now here, if we try to count our rise between points 1 and 2, do the points go up or down at all between the 2 points? Up or down any units? Well, no, they're on the exact same y value. So here you would say, that's why you say, well, rise over run, there is no rise. Didn't go up or down any. So it's 0 over, and then how many did it run? Well, let's see, it went 1, 2, 3. So my slope here is 0 over 3, or just 0. And that's where we call it a slope of 0. That's where we get that from. All right, well, look at the vertical line now. The reason the vertical line is undefined is because now I have a rise, let's say, between these 2 points of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now my rise over run is 4, and the run is 0. So anytime 0 is in the denominator, meaning the run is 0, this is what we call an undefined slope. And you need to make sure that you label that. Anytime you see a vertical line, you're going to say that the slope is undefined. Or anytime you see a fraction with a denominator of 0, you're going to label it an undefined slope. All right, so you're going to see it in different formats. Next example, and this might be, I don't want to say the most important, but if you think back to the first several examples, in the very first example, it specifically tells you, this is your rise, this is your run, you plug in the numbers, and there's your slope. In the next example, you're reading a graph, so you're counting, okay, this is how many units between the points, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's my rise. And then you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's my run. So you're counting units to figure out your slope. In the last couple examples, all you have are ordered pairs. So what you need to know is this is how you label ordered pairs. You need to know that the very first number in an ordered pair is your x1 value, then y1, and then x2 and y2. You need to know that those are the labels so you know which numbers to plug in to your formula. And especially on these, the more you practice them, the more you'll kind of catch or get the hang of which numbers get plugged in where. All right, so now what I want you to do is write these two ordered pairs down in your notes. And I want you to just specifically label, okay, the number 4, is that your x1, y1, x2, or y2? Go ahead and label each one of these numbers so that it goes in the same pattern as the formula that you see up above. Okay, so the number 4 is which value? Okay, if you said x1, that's correct. What about 7? y1. What about 5? x2. What about 9? y2. Okay, so we're just going through practicing. Well, here's how I label each point in the ordered pairs. So when I plug in these values into the formula, well, the very first value needs to be my y2 value. Well, which number was y2? It was 9. So 9's going to come first in your formula, 9. y2 minus y1. What's my y1 value? 7. Okay, so 9 minus 7 over, what's my x2 value? x2. 5 minus 4. So when you subtract them, you get 2 over 1, or you could just say 2. All right, so it's really important, guys, that you know the sequence, and if you haven't already, you need to write down this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's a really important formula. You're going to use it in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, all the way up through. Okay, so you need to know that one and have it memorized. All right, so hopefully you have the formula written down, you've got your ordered pair labels written down, and now we're going to practice, okay? This is really similar to what you would see on a quiz or a test. Even your standardized testing, maybe it just gives you two ordered pairs and it says find the slope with the ordered pairs. Well, you do that by starting with your formula. Now you can't just say rise over run, even though that's essentially what the slope is, because it doesn't tell you which one of these values are, is going to be your final rise value. What you're doing is you're using the formula so you can get to that point and figure out what the rise and the run are. And so here's your formula. M, which stands for the slope, M is the variable for slope, equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, based on the slide that we just did, I want you to try to plug in the numbers where they go into the formula. So which one of these numbers up here is your y2 value? Plug that in first. Which one's your y1 value? Which one's x2? Which one's x1? All right, so y2 is 1. y1 is 5. So 1 minus 5 over what's x2? x2 is 6. And x1, okay, here's where it's going to be interesting. The formula says to subtract. There's a subtraction sign built into the formula. But then your x value is what? It's negative 2. So you're subtracting a negative. Well, that looks awful like a double negative to me. And especially with slope, guys, you're going to see these double negatives a lot. Okay? You've got to catch them, because if you don't, it's going to be the wrong, numbers. Okay? So 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Over 6 plus 2 is 8. But is this something that I can reduce? Yeah, it is. I can reduce it to negative 1 over 2. Now, do you know why I put the negative up top? Do you remember what I said earlier? Remember, it's the rise that's negative. Think of it on the graph. The line is going down 1 unit between the 2 points. The run is never negative. I'm always going left to right on my run. So my slope here, and look at this, okay, so this is my end example, or my end, what I was going for. Rise over run. Now I have my final numbers, but I had to use my formula, this formula, to get there. All right, now I want you to do the second one on your own. All right, so we'll pause the recording and give you a few minutes to work on the second one. All right, so we have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All right, so again, which one's my y2 value? 4. Which one's y1? 4. x2 is 5 minus, I've got a double negative again. That's going to change to a positive. Uh-oh, what's 4 minus 4? 0 over 12. Does anybody remember what happens if 0 is in my numerator? If 0 is in my numerator, that means it's a horizontal line, so my slope is 0. Do you remember what it is if it's in your denominator? If it's in your denominator, the slope is undefined. All right, so that's it for example 4. Now in example 5, we're going to find the coordinates and slope. So now, in example 5, we actually don't even have ordered pairs. So we need to figure that part out as well. You guys remember what we did yesterday in finding our intercepts? Or not yesterday, but in 8.3. So in section 8.3, we found our x and y intercepts, and we're going to do that again. So you have y equals 2x plus 4. And why did I write it twice? Why do I have two equations again? You guys remember? Okay, hopefully someone said it, but yes, because my first one is I need to solve for x, and on my second one I solve for y. All right, so now if I'm solving for x on the first one, I need to plug in 0 for y equals 2x plus 4. All right, well, if I need to solve for x, that means everything else needs to get to the other side. I do that by subtracting 4 from both sides. Now I have negative 4 equals 2x. Okay, what do I do now? Divide by 2, both sides. And x equals negative 2. Now, can I make this into an ordered pair? Yeah, I can. My x value is negative 2, and what value did I plug in for y? 0. So there's my first ordered pair. Well, I need two ordered pairs to find slope. All right, so now let's solve for y on the second one. So y equals 2 times 0 plus 4. Well, 2 times 0 is 0, so y equals 4. And what would be my ordered pair for this one? Got it. It's 0, 4. All right, so now I have the two ordered pairs that I need to find my slope. Negative 2, 0, and 0, negative 4. So I'm going to come over here to my next slide. Okay, and I've got negative 2, 0. What was it, positive 4? Yeah, positive 4. And 0, 4. And now I can plug these ordered pairs into y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And the more you repeat that, the easier it will be to remember. Y2 is 4 minus y1 is 0 over x2, which is 0, minus x1. See, these double negatives are going to start popping up everywhere. You really have to be careful. The subtraction sign's in your formula, and then when you plug in a negative, that turns it into a positive. So when you subtract them out, 4 minus 0 is 4. 0 plus 2 is 2. So that reduces to 2 over 1, or just 2. So here, my rise would be 2, and my run would be 1 between the points. My slope is 2 over 1. And that's how you would find the coordinates. So if you're not given ordered pairs, you have to find your own, and you do that using your x and y intercepts. So now I want you to do one. Okay, well, that one's a fraction. Let's do this one. 4x minus 3y equals 12. So go ahead and find your x and y intercepts for this one. Remember, we need to write our equation twice. 4x minus 3y equals 12. All right, and go ahead and find your x and y intercepts. So we'll pause it so y'all can do that. All right, so finding my x-intercept first, 4x minus 3 times 0 equals 12. So 4x equals 12. Divide by 4. And x equals 3. I make that into an ordered pair. Did you do an ordered pair? So you have 3 and 0. Now over here, I plug in 0 for x because I'm solving for y. So now negative 3y divided by negative 3, and y equals negative 4. So this ordered pair would be 0 for x and negative 4. All right, now I need to put them into my formula. 3, 0, and 0, negative 4. Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is negative 4 minus 0. y1 is 0 minus 3. So this ends up being negative 4 minus 0 is negative 4 over negative 3. But this is not my final answer because I'm dividing two negatives. My slope actually is positive. I have to follow my rules for dividing negatives, and if I'm dividing two negatives, that makes it positive. So it's positive 4 over 3. Don't change it to a mixed number. We just leave it. So if we have to find slope and all they give us is an equation, we have to find our intercepts, make up our own ordered pairs. Once we have our ordered pairs, we can use the formula to find slope. And if you everything you need to know for section 8.4.